of 9-year-old survivor. Just months after her ordeal in upstate New York, they join me live right here next. It's not even been 9 months since a family in upstate New York experienced the same terrifying moment that hit my family more than 20 years ago. Their little girl, a 9-year-old named Charlotte, had simply disappeared from their camping trip. Charlotte's family didn't know it yet, but she'd been abducted and locked inside a camper. After about 48 hours, police managed to track down where Charlotte was being held, and they set her free. Her kidnapper and assailant pleaded guilty and is in prison, hopefully until he dies. But tonight is not about that case or that investigation. Tonight is about Charlotte and her survival and her healing. Joining me live in the News Nation studio, Trisha Senna, Charlotte's mother, and Jené Luciani Senna, Charlotte's aunt. They are not only helping navigate Charlotte's recovery and life after this nightmare, but they are sharing their story with the world on the podcast Sisterhood of the Survivors, available on all the major podcast sites. So thank you, first of all, both of you ladies, for joining me. And I love your shirts. You say with no fear. I love that. How did you come up with that? What does that symbolize and embody to you?
So when Charlotte wrote her impact statement, she signed it with no fear, comma, Charlotte. So she was really making a point.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think she's living her life that way too, since this happened. So even like, I know that this is not super comfortable of an experience for Trisha because she doesn't work in TV like I do, but she looks at Charlotte as an inspiration and as an example that she can do hard things. Yep. Because we have a purpose with this, so.
I think that just speaks so much to who she is. And even today, I mean, my first question was going to be, how is Charlotte today? But that almost feels redundant because you're saying that's how she signed her victim impact statement. I mean, yep. How amazing. That's incredible. I mean, so you've come out really strongly that she is a survivor and not a victim. And I just want to hear you explain in your words, what do you feel like the difference is between a victim and a survivor?
So when I hear the word victim, it feels harsh and it feels hard and just sad. Like usually when you hear victim, you feel sadness and empathy. And I really want Charlotte to be seen as a survivor, for one, because she works really, really hard to be a survivor every day. And just like think about how we talk about people who overcome anything really difficult in life, like cancer, for example. We say they're a cancer survivor. And Charlotte is a survivor of a really terrible experience, but she is surviving. She's working hard every day, and I'm going to follow her motto here, without fear. That's what she's doing. She's taking this and she's saying, this is not going to define me. Mm-hmm. I'm a survivor.
I love that, and I think you're exactly right. I think that is what sets survivors. That's what makes a survivor, is that mental mindset of, I'm not going to let this ruin my life. I'm not going to allow fear to stop me from doing what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I guess in that same vein, would you say that that's how she's living her life? I mean, does she have normal 9-year-old summer plans?
Of course she does, yes. She came home and she looked at me like right away and she said, I just decided this is not gonna ruin my life and I'm just gonna move forward. And that was like 2 hours after being home. So she has always made this really conscious decision that this wasn't defining her and she was moving forward, and she's doing hard things and things out of her comfort zone. So like this summer, she's doing a play. And I think it's just because she now feels like, I can do this. I can do hard things. I can be brave. I overcome something that was really scary and tragic. And now I'm going to go do things and step out of my comfort zone. Like I said, she's doing a play, which for anybody that knows her, it's like really mind blowing to think that she's going to do this, but she's doing it. She's owning it. She's loving it.
I mean, I just think that that speaks so much to the kind of family that you are. I mean, I know I have a 9-year-old daughter myself, and I try to tell her all the time, you can do hard things. You're so strong. You can do hard things. And just what you've said about how she just immediately came out and was like, I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I'm not going to live in fear. This isn't going to define me, kind of thing. I mean, that's everything that I want for my own child, and I hope that's how she would respond. I just think that just speaks to the family that you are, and this incredible young woman that you're raising. On a little bit maybe of a more difficult direction, how does Charlotte process what has happened to her? I mean, does she talk about it, or is that something that she chooses not to? Does she focus on the here and now, or does she find it helpful to revisit the past and work through everything that happened?
So the way trauma works is it's going to take your experience and it literally just smashes it into a million pieces, and it'll come back to you when you're ready for it to come back to you. So sometimes our conversations are every single night, and sometimes they are, you know, a week in between. But I am a huge advocate of talking about our feelings and talking through things. Like I tell Charlotte all the time, you have to pull the weeds so the flowers can grow. And her weeds are her fears, the things that she's afraid of, or, you know, just things creeping in after, you know, months of that, her not thinking of them. It's like, you got to get them out. You got to talk about it. And I feel that's really important for healing. So talking is a big part of our days, and just trying to get as much of that out as we can.
Speaking of talking, tell me about the Sisterhood of, tell me about the podcast, the Sisterhood of the Survivors. It's not only Charlotte's story, but your whole family's. Tell me about it.
Well, I think the ripple effect, and you probably know this, Elizabeth, firsthand, but the ripple effect of something like this on families is huge. So it's like everybody's experiencing their own trauma and experiencing their own, you know, stuff with this. And on top of it, with such a high profile case, we're getting like inundated with the stories. So just a quick note on the whole victim and survivor thing. We know that one day she's going to Google her name, and we wanted her to have these stories come up about all the good that her family's doing, good that has, you know, kind of come out of this, the activism, that sort of thing, as opposed to the stories that are her being this person's victim. So that was really important to us. So we were kind of like talking every day pretty much, talking about different things that we could do moving forward. And we one day were like, you know, should we start speaking out more about this? And we were working, talking with NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and I wrote a blog for them, and we were trying to figure out different things that we could do to, you know, use this kind of new platform. And Trisha said, why don't we make our own platform? And so that's how the podcast idea kind of was born. And in a way, it's really just letting people in on the conversations that we've been having already for the past almost 9 months. But we also...
I think that is...
Yes. We also plan to bring people on, too.
So amazing.
It's not just us talking.
That is so amazing. And may every survivor have as supportive a family as Charlotte does.